So around 7 or 8, like what is your ideal scenario for your child at that time?
So I'm part of this startup, this educational startup called Synthesis. When I decided to leave the system, the school system, in 2019, I started writing and sort of all these questions that didn't make sense in my head from what I was seeing and doing and from being a student myself in 10 different schools. And then I started to write about all these things that I was, discovering. And I started to talk to different people, and I came across these two guys that were starting Synthesis. And I loved the way they would think about education and the future of education. And we just had a really similar philosophy. And I must say, small parentheses, they were one of the first people that I encountered that did not align themselves with one particular thing. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, Montessori is the way to go, or, Reggio Emilia is the way to go, or Waldorf, or democratic schools. And I think that these all have amazing things. But I think that the moment that you say this is what works, that's when unfortunately you're making a mistake, right? Because every kid is different. What works for one family may not work for the other. Even for one of your kids may not work for the other. So it's about grabbing ideas from all these great philosophies and methodologies and everything, and then finding, what kids need right now for the complex, ever-changing future that they're going to face. And so they had that same mentality. They were like, we don't associate with one specific thing. We're just like trying different things out. And so I joined them, and Synthesis has two products right now. So one of them is Teams, which are the simulations that we originally came out with that teach kids the soft skills that they're going to need to thrive in the future, but that they're not learning in school. Things like how to problem solve, how to think critically, how to communicate, but like communicate like an adult, how to engage in conjecture and criticism, how to figure things out when you don't have instructions, how to fail productively and pick yourself up, and what do you do now? And so all these things are super critical for the future that our kids are going to be living in. And they're not being taught in school, at least not explicitly. And so I loved what we were doing. And I was like, this sounds like the kind of education I would love for my kids and that I would love for every kid to have access to. And so I joined them when we launched that product. And now we recently launched the Synthesis Tutor, which I think is going to revolutionize education, like for real. So the holy grail of education is finding a superhuman tutor, because we've known for years that the best way to learn the core subjects or the hardcore academics, math, reading, like all the writing, all these things, and the STEM subjects is through one-on-one tutoring. But of course, not everyone is Alexander the Great that can hire Aristotle to be his tutor, right? And so for years and years, people have been trying to figure out how to make a digital tutor that actually works. And so we've actually figured it out, and it's incredible. And so the Synthesis Tutor that we launched this year is it's from groundbreaking research of the DARPA founded a long time ago. And so the DARPA, the agency that, like the R&D agency that's in charge of creating all new technologies for the military. So a few years ago, they created this tutor, and they grabbed students to learn IT through the tutor. And in 16 weeks, they were able to outperform Navy technicians that were 10 years experts in their field. And
Wow.
so it was like groundbreaking research. And I can share the documents later that talk about this, because it's kind of like mind-blowing and mind-boggling to wrap your hand around this. But what we've done is we paired up with these original researchers at DARPA, and we have been building upon this technology and adding AI tools to create a digital tutor that's going to be teaching all subjects. And we started this year with math. And so the way it works is we find the best teachers out there. For example, for math, we hired Dr. Tanton. Dr. Tanton is this PhD teacher from Stanford that has won 10 awards of Teacher of the Year internationally. He has written 26 textbooks in math. He's part of the Association of Math. So he's like an incredibly prepared teacher, but also his passion and zest for teaching math is like, you talk to him and you're like, this is the guy that I want to teach math to my kids. And so now what we do is we record him for hours and hours and hours, and we catch the way that he explains things, but not just the content. And this is what differs us from other things that are out there, but his examples, his stories. Stories are huge for learning. that human component that we were talking about at the beginning, the relationship that's so important in the learning process, we've been able to capture that, and the way he gives feedback and the way, like, everything in this digital tutor, to the point where you go through it and you can try it online for free. If you go to synthesis.com/tutor, you really feel like you are learning from a human. And so it's really, it's just incredible. And the way that it teaches is so effective, because it doesn't use like other apps that you see, like we were talking about earlier, those like rewards, like points and colors and characters that make kids kind of want to learn for that. Like, we don't have anything of that. We just have, like, you know, you're chatting with the tutor. You have like a workspace where you get to try things out, and they don't tell you, like, when you get things wrong, this tutor is infinitely patient, something that unfortunately teachers can't do at school, right? You have 30 kids, you can't stay with one kid forever until they finally learn the content, right? And as a result, a lot of kids fall through the cracks. Here, this tutor's with you however long you need it. If you get the content fast, it will move you. And so it's this whole idea of no speed limits, right? So we push kids as far and as fast as they're willing to go. And the results have been astonishing. Kids are learning real math, and they don't forget after they take the little quiz at the end, which that's what's really amazing, right? In school, they're just learning for the test, and after the test, they forget. They forget because they don't get to apply what they're learning to the real world. And research shows that knowledge decays really quickly, and if you don't use what you're learning in 14 days, you're going to forget. And when I say use, I mean like actually put it to practice. And so here, the kids are learning these things, and they're putting it to practice, and they're understanding math, and they are incentivized and motivated by the fact that they are understanding why they're going to use these things. And so it sounds too good to be true, I know, but you get to try it. And so we started with math, but we are planning to cover all of the subjects, right? So we're going to start, we started with math, we're adding complexity science, we're doing literacy, we're doing everything. We're starting with the STEM subjects first. And so from now until my kid is 7, this is going to be just another, ship, right? Rocket ship going to the moon. And so I'm really excited to get him to learn the hardcore academics with the digital tutor. And the amazing thing is that, kids can do it an hour a day, and they have the rest of the day to engage, to be kids and to do the things that, whether it is play sports or, play, independent, self-directed play, or play whatever it is that they want to do, they get to do it because they have now freed up all of their day. And so we're essentially restoring childhood, which is incredible because a lot of it has been lost by putting kids in these institutions for so many. Think about it. It's like 7 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 plus years. Like, that's insane, right? And so I'm just very excited about that. And again, we are making lots of mistakes in the way, and we're course correcting, and it's not going to be easy, but I'm very optimistic. So something like this is what I plan to do in terms of the hardcore academics. Then obviously the teams, in order for them to learn how to problem solve and critical think and work in collaboration, which is like crucial in this world. Like, it's just one of the most important skills, to be able to work with people from diverse backgrounds, with, diverse thoughts, and be able to do it effectively, and be able to make any team that you are at better. That's sort of like a goal here. And so, so those are some of the things that I'm definitely super invested for my kids. And then I love the idea of micro schools and forest schools, where kids get to go a few times a week and be with other kids, because all of this synthesis things is online. It is with other kids, but it's online. And so they get the social component by engaging outdoors with nature and learning from things that they're encountering. And so a mix of that is something that I find ideal.
When I drive past a school, I just look and I'm like, that looks like a prison. And I don't know if that is because of my own experience with school or my own lack of excitement about the curriculum that I was given. But to me, it strikes as so clearly like constraining, and it's frustrating. And, a lot of the world is getting revamped because individuals are getting power in a way never seen before. So an individual will get power to create a podcast, or an individual get a power to create a media company. And why wouldn't the individual also get power to teach their children how to do life most effectively? And with the individual power comes a level of responsibility that we once outsourced to an institution. What problems are people going to start facing as they are living and being the school system, the institution that they might not think about or come up against?
Let me see if I understood. So you mean if they don't start sending their kids to school, to these institutions, and they start doing it themselves? Is that what you mean?
I mean, like, individuals are now getting the power to be the institution themselves in a way. But what does that mean? Like, what difficulties would I come up against if I'm going to teach my children in a new way and I've never been in the system other than when I was educated in school, which might have been 20 years ago?